The girl was shocked to find that the one who was supposed to chop the left foot had accidentally chopped off the right foot. Liv Anderson did this just to put on a pair of shoes that didn't fit so that she could marry the prince she loved. Why would a girl rather hurt herself than marry a prince? It all started with Liv's mother's remarriage. Liv Anderson was originally living in the village of Tianti with her mother Astrid Anderson, married to Henrik Janssen. A family of 3 moved into the big villa in the city. Henrik has a fair-skinned daughter, Ingrid Janssen. It's a clear contrast to the ordinary Liv. Because Ingrid is older than him, it became Liv's season. On the first night of her marriage to Henrik, Henrik died of a sudden heart attack. In grief, Ingrid accidentally told the truth. She said that the reason her father married Astrid was that he valued their family property. It turned out that Henrik looked bright. The family was already very poor. Liv immediately told her mother about this news. At this moment, the official was informing Astrid that he was about to confiscate the land of the Janssen family and give birth to all of them. At that moment, Astrid, who could not accept it, collapsed on the ground. Now, if you want to improve your current life, the only way is to let Liv find a prince to marry. But in terms of her ordinary appearance, almost no prince would like her. However, the coincidence is that the royal family invited all the noble girls to the palace ball. Ingrid and Liv got the invitation at the same time. This made Liv start to have a beautiful dream in broad daylight. She began to fantasize about the beautiful happiness of herself and Prince Emil of Nordheim. But her appearance makes people speechless. For this, Astrid specially invited a transformer to prepare to make Liv a big beauty. Dr. Elvira Sjöholt first took off her tooth cap, then began to correct Liv's nose. In order to have a high nose bridge, even if it hurts Liv, she has to endure it. Freya Anderson, Liv's younger sister, was so scared that she didn't dare to say anything. A few days later, the noble girls from all over the country came to Shuyu Academy to learn dancing. Professor Mikkel Sorvik would choose a main dancer, and a few partners among the many girls. The selected girls will have a chance to meet for thousands of years. They can show off their style in front of the prince. This is also an important opportunity to change their lives. There are not only princes at the ball, but also other powerful men and women. They will also watch the girls dance on the spot. After hearing the teacher's words, every girl is excited. Liv began to fantasize about the fate of the second half of her life. Then the dance training officially began. Liv confidently stood in the first row, but soon she was directly persuaded by Professor Sorvik to the last row. And Ingrid, who looks outstanding, stood in the first row. This made Liv very weak. But she didn't give up. Fat Liv could only drink a glass of lemon water to shape her perfect body. And Ingrid didn't have this trouble. She eats very well every day. Liv is also helpless. At this time, Ingrid proposed that she had already chosen the time for her father's funeral. She needed Astrid to pay for the funeral expenses, but Astrid didn't want to spend a penny on the funeral, which caused it to be delayed repeatedly. Henrik's body has been severely damaged. A few days later, the dance list was finally released. Liv saw her name at the bottom. This made her a little flattered. A beautiful picture of Prince Emil and Ingrid suddenly appeared in her mind. Then Professor Sorvik began to choose the most suitable girl for the main dance. Everyone raised their hands. At this time, he noticed Liv and kindly gave her a chance. But half of the dance was stopped by him. The teacher's remarks deeply hit Liv. He said that without Astrid's attitude, he wouldn't have left Liv to dance here. With her appearance, she wanted to dance the main dance? It's ridiculous. After that, he called Ingrid up. Liv stood by the side and cried bitterly. At night, Astrid personally picked a dress for her. No matter how hard Liv tried, she couldn't put it on. But she still couldn't control her mouth. She was still eating cake. The next day, Professor Sorvik saw Liv's troubles. He has been doing psychological construction for her. He told her that the real beauty was in her heart. Then he gave Liv a peacock egg. He said that as long as you eat this peacock egg, you won't gain weight no matter how much you eat and drink. On the contrary, it is very helpful for losing weight, because the peacock will digest all the food it eats. It satisfies the mouth and controls the weight. To marry the prince successfully, Liv devoured the peacock egg without hesitation. At night, Ingrid was having fun with Erik Lund in the stable. It turned out that Ingrid already had someone in her heart. But for money and status, she had to find a way to marry the prince. Coincidentally, the secret of the two was found by Liv. After Astrid knew it, she scolded Ingrid a lot. And she kept her at home. She would work as a servant in the future. And Erik was also swept out of the house. He was not allowed to contact Ingrid again. Not long after, Liv's nose finally became the high nose that everyone envied. Looking in the mirror, Liv showed a satisfied expression. To make herself more perfect, Liv began the next beauty surgery. Dr. Elvira took out a sharp hook and sewed the fake eyelashes directly on Liv's eyelids. To marry the prince, Liv also struggled. At night, the pain came to her, but it made her unable to sleep for a long time. And the worms in her stomach were still moving around. It made her more uncomfortable. The next day, when she was practicing dancing, Astrid lied that Ingrid had died because she missed her too much, so she couldn't get up and practice. Professor Sorvik had no choice but to reselect the main dancer. And Liv, who made the change, was the best choice. At night, Liv took a bath and let Ingrid feed her for a year. Because of the existence of the worm, Liv didn't have to control her diet at all. She could eat and drink without fear every day. But the worm also played a side role for her. Liv, who was young, began to lose her hair. This made her unable to accept it at all. Liv, who was sad, was lying in bed and sad. The luxury dress brought by Astrid instantly turned her back on her. However, in the process of trying on, Rune, the costume stylist, found that Liv was constantly losing her hair. Astrid also noticed that Liv was about to become bald. Rune found a wig for her, and he promised her that he would make Liv stand out at the ball. Liv, who was about to steal food in the middle of the night, happened to meet Ingrid holding the dress. In order not to let Ingrid participate in the ball, Liv ruthlessly tore the dress apart. The sad Ingrid lay next to her father's body and cried. In the end, she fell asleep unconsciously. In her sleep, she saw her long-lost mother. She asked the poor baby to repair her dress. She also gave her a pair of beautiful high heels. Finally, on the day of the ball, Liv dressed up. Looking at herself in the mirror, Liv smiled. However, at the scene of the ball, she found that all the other girls were as beautiful as fairies. This put her under pressure. When all the girls were introduced, Liv stood in the center and performed the opening dance for the prince. As expected, this jump instantly captured Prince Emil's heart. He chose Liv as his partner. The two of them danced in the pool. At this moment, Liv thought she was the happiest girl in the world. But it didn't last long. A girl in a blue dress slowly walked over. Although she was wearing a veil, the prince was still attracted by her charm. So he gave up Liv and turned to the girl in the blue dress. Liv was extremely disappointed. Suddenly, she felt a worm moving in her stomach. It made her feel very sick. She ran outside and spat out a bunch of worms. Astrid followed her closely. She saw Liv sitting on the floor and crying. Astrid slapped her. She tried to cheer her up again, so Liv went back to the ball. Although the dancing object was no longer the prince, there were still many boys who wanted to dance with Liv. At the end of the dance, Liv finally saw the girl in the blue dress. She didn't expect it to be Ingrid. Ingrid realized that her identity was exposed, and she had to leave early. Unfortunately, a high-heeled shoe fell off while running. Prince Emil said that as long as he could wear this shoe, she could become his princess. Liv, who was very angry, came home and found Ingrid. Liv threatened Ingrid with a kitchen knife to give her another shoe, but Ingrid wouldn't agree. The two of them quickly fought. Just when they were chasing, Astrid ran into them. Liv immediately told Astrid that the owner of the shoe was Ingrid. As long as you have this shoe, you can marry the prince. But Astrid had a lover in her room. To continue to play happily, she didn't care about Liv. When Liv came back to her room, she looked at the shoe that didn't suit her at all. At this time, she saw a kitchen knife on the side. Suddenly, she had a bold idea. She took the kitchen knife and made a mark on her foot. Then she bit her toe with a knife. When Freya heard Liv scream, she rushed to check it out. She quickly made a simple bun for Liv. When Astrid heard the movement, she rushed over. The moment she saw Liv, her whole body was frightened. Then she took the painkiller for Liv. Then Astrid sighed. At this point, to put on the prince's shoes, she had to cut off another toe. At this time, Liv still longed for her and the prince's beautiful future. The next morning, Liv was in pain. At this time, she heard the guards outside calling for Prince Emil. He was looking for the owner of the shoe. Liv fell off the bed in a hurry. She accidentally cut her teeth and bled. Then she dragged her body up the stairs to the room. In the end, she accidentally rolled down the stairs. At this time, Ingrid happened to see Liv in a daze. She didn't choose to go up and hold her. Instead, she went out and put on the shoe that belonged to her. In the end, Ingrid became the princess. On the other side, Freya got the antidote for the insect. After Liv took the medicine, a huge, long insect was quickly spat out. Freya didn't say a word. She cut the insect in half. Then she went upstairs and took some valuable jewelry and was ready to leave here. At this time, Astrid was still having fun with her husband. She didn't care about the lives of her two daughters. Freya had no choice but to take Liv on a horse to fly high and start a new life. The above is all the content of the 2025 Norwegian horror movie, Ugly Season. The movie has subverted the classic narrative of Cinderella. It's very similar to a certain material from some time ago. It also focuses on women's appearance anxiety. The ancient plastic surgery scene is very obvious. It strongly triggers the audience's physiological and psychological discomfort. It's a movie worth watching. The film contains a lot of blood and self-harm scenes. Brothers with weak psychological endurance, watch carefully. If you want to watch it, it's better to watch it with someone else. Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.